So this is the router-telnet script that's been written in Perl. What I want to explain is just on a very high level how this code actually works. So Honeydee will start, it will then listen for any connection on port 23. Once Honeydee sees there is a connection attempt on port 23, it will um, start running this Perl script. Um, the script is basically divided into three areas. The first area is where we tell the telnet client, not to echo any characters that's been typed in. So all this is packed into standard out and then sent to the telnet client. So that also prevents would-be attackers from knowing that this would be an honeypot. The entire point is that we want to emulate a telnet session, as clearly and truly as possible. We then define a string, which is still part of area 1. This is then sent to the telnet client, as a banner. Right. We also want Nessus to pick up the banner and to trigger the unencrypted telnet server detection script. That specific nasal script in Nessus. And then we prompt the user for user access verification. So all this is written out to standard out um, in the script. From there, we then ask the user to enter username. Now, just note that this is inside a while loop, so we can only enter this 3 times. So there's a 3-time knockout session. We increment count every time the username is entered. Section 2 really deals with the input that we receive from the telnet client. So that would be another sub that's been defined down here, which I'll explain in a second. So when we ask for the username, this sub is launched, as well as with a password. Then the sub will be launched as well. Interesting to note that when we do provide input from the telnet client to Honeydee's telnet script, we want to record the actual username and password. And the way we do that is by writing to standard error, which will then output onto Honeydee's standard output that we normally see and what you've seen so far on the wiki. Otherwise, there's some standard error messages like login invalid and access denied, based on the input that we provide. So that would be the first section of the Perl script for Telnet on the Cisco side. Let's quickly have a look at the read word sub. So as parameters, it receives 3. The first 2 is important. Actually, only the first one. This is the text we want to output to the screen, like username and then password. This is sent as standard out, to that pipe. We then go into, and as I understand it, eval is almost like an exception handling type of block, and we set the alarm to 30. So this is almost like a timer, and this is going to be used for the timeout session parameter. So if there's no user input in 30 seconds, then a timeout will be sent, and the actual session will be closed. And then the user types in the data. If we convert the numeric value of the contents of the buffer, that's what the odd command means. We just want to simply ignore that. I'm actually quite still in 2 months why this has been added, because this would be ignored even if there's no if statement for a 0. So there must be some purpose behind it, but at this point in time I'm not really sure. Also then, if the value is 255, we actually just read into standard in. We take the username or the password, we put it into buffer. The 13 actually represents a character return. So when the user presses enter, we want to go and create a new line character return. That's what /r means, and then go to a new line in the telnet client itself. I've ran into some issues, where the buffer ordinal value is set to 10. I've commented this out, and actually since I commented this out, I can actually start. I could capture usernames and passwords. When this was not commented out, I could only capture the username. So for some reason this was added. I'm not really sure why. my script wasn't working, so I just commented out this little line over here, and I'm just looking for a carriage return ordinal value, and then based on that, ask for a password. Um, so carriage return, we then actually output a carriage return represented by /r and /n. Um, and the routine will be called again when we ask the user for the password. Um, if the alarm value of 30 is actually reached, so if this timer actually executes, then what we write to the screen is that the timeout expired, um, and then we return. What's going to happen with this return is that the user authentication request is going to be sent again, to the Telnet client. So we're going to prompt him for another username and password, within that 3-second period, and then because count at the top over here set to 3, this will actually happen 3 times, even if we don't do anything, or even if the user doesn't provide any input. So just on a very high level, this is how the script works. The script is shipped with HoneyD by default. I've actually tried manipulating the string that's sent to the user. This is normally, part of your corporate policy where you say, listen, unauthorized access, etc., etc. There might be civil liability or criminal charges, for unauthorized access. But I'm just going to leave it at is the objective for this experiment was just to start capturing usernames and passwords, so I can demonstrate the ability of HoneyD to be used for analysis purposes, as I describe in the wiki. So thanks for watching. Next experiment is coming up quite soon.